So the reason we are here, I'm going to shortly present the whole thing, is that you created backpack for people that want to bring their kettlebells outside of their homes and train and swing them outside in the beautiful nature. And I find the idea tremendously valuable, in my opinion, because I needed it. So you're coming here as a savior, at least for me, and I hope for many others out there. So before we go into that, though, let's talk a little bit about yourself. What's your background, man? So before you
Yeah,
did all that, what was your life?
sure. So, small town Minnesota boy, kind of a smaller rural community. Grew up, like a lot of people, I grew up playing sports. And around probably the age of 12, so I played three sports. I was a wrestler, I was a baseball player, and I played American football. And with wrestling, I was pretty naturally gifted growing up. And then right around, that puberty time frame, I started to get my butt kicked a little bit in wrestling. In America, like when you get into seventh grade, you're around that 12, 13 years old. And sometimes you're wrestling 14, 15, sometimes even 16-year-olds, and you're a 12, 13-year-old. So you kind of, sometimes you get physically manhandled. And I only share that because that's where I got sick of being physically manhandled. I asked my dad, who was a wrestling coach, I'm just like, what can I do? And he introduced me to my first set of weights. And they were the old school sand filled, if you remember those at all, Jason, like, they were like plastic plates, a cheap barbell, and they were filled with sand. But it was resistance, right? So I started lifting, I started doing push-ups, I started bicep curling a magazine rack, and just let my mind kind of run wild with it, pull-ups and stuff like that. And I got significantly stronger. And that next year, I really turned a corner and I started, physically manhandling my opponent. And that was the first probably aha moment in my life from a physical standpoint that I wanted to be strong. It made me feel confident and made me feel good. And at that point in my life, there was a tangible benefit in winning. And that's evolved through time. That was kind of like my purpose for training earlier on in my life, and because I was blessed to play some collegiate athletics too. But when that's over, I had to find a new reason, and it largely just became mental health and just feeling good and confidence. Now that I'm a father, a husband, I got three kids. It's still about those things, being mentally sharp, feeling strong, feeling confident, evading being sick all the time, and just probably the overriding purpose is to be a good example for my kids. And I coach in my community a lot of young kids and adults too. And I just want to be an example for them to follow because Lord knows, well, at least in my country, Jason, we're terrible. We're terrible. So I want to be an agent of change in that respect. So that's a little bit about my story, man. And I'm an entrepreneur. Went to school for strength conditioning. Went all the way through my graduate program in that. So I have a deep background in athletic development and strength conditioning. And kettlebells about 10 years ago became my best friend, probably similar to you. Just for a lot of reasons. Maybe we'll dive into that.
Yeah, wow. Great example. I love your wrestling background. I don't have wrestling friends, but I know a guy who has a world champion wrestling guy, and I know how strong these guys are. Ridiculous. And most of them right now in Greece, they start training with kettlebells, which is a nice change from the old school mentality, which is not bad. No, barbells, I'm all for it. But kettlebells can add some spice, and you can go outside and you can do different things, ballistic movements.
Yes. I always tell people when they ask me why I almost exclusively, I'm not anti-barbell or anti-dumbbell or I've started to incorporate some steel mace into some things, but I tell them there's nothing, I'll try to get this right because sometimes I screw it up. It's kind of like a mind bender little statement. There's nothing you can't do with a kettlebell that you can do with a dumbbell or a barbell, but there's a lot of things with a dumbbell or a barbell that you can't do that you can do with a kettlebell. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is kettlebells are so versatile and they carry all of the same benefits, yet there's a ton more that you can do with them. I mean, I really enjoy them. I don't like spending a ton of time at a gym. I don't like spending 2 hours. I feel like it's a waste of time. I feel like, I dedicate 30 minutes, and that's what I coach my online kettlebell clients and everything, and they always question, "Hey, is this enough?" And I'm like, yes. Especially, I mean, you got to match intensity, like you can't just constantly, you know, if you're using a eight kilo, that's where you started, and then 2 years later, you're still cranking 8 kilo kettlebells. Like, well, there's got to be some progression. So, but yeah, 30 minutes is all you need. So it was out of the efficiency, if I were to summarize that. As I became a father, husband, and I had a family, I'm like, I don't have 2 hours to go to the gym. And these big box gyms that we were members to were, oftentimes a couple $100 a month to be a part of them. I'm like, that's just silly. I'm gonna buy my kettlebells and I'm just gonna get after it at home. So that's where my training has been for nearly 10 years, like I said.
And some of the bros probably are going to hate us, but hey, it comes with the territory. So
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, all my love to the barbell bros.
For
For me,
sure.
they are bros.
For
They're
sure.
cousins.
Hey, we can do Turkish get-ups with a barbell every once in a while.
I can't. Speak for yourself. I can do it. Maybe in the future. And
Yeah.
by the way, I love you that you're a young father. How old are you? I never asked you.
I'm 39.
All right. Yeah. And you look younger. So you are
Yeah.
young, but you look younger, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Anti-aging, get lifting, strength training, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example. And I'm glad that you said before we go into your product and your innovation, you said about giving the example for the community. Myself, I go to a park to exercise, and when I did that like 3 years ago, I realized something I never could realize when I was in my home exercising with my barbell and my power rack, or when I was in the gym, where everybody's fit, or at least everybody gets it. We exercise here. Okay, yeah.
You're right.
But when you are in a park, what I realized is that many people, young people, children, older people, they were going around me and they were looking at me like, okay, well, what's that? What's this kettlebell? And then sometimes little children coming to me and making moves, trying to lift it. It was, I felt I wasn't a father, I'm not a father, but I felt like a fatherly responsibility to actually, okay, look at that, hey, why not showing? And I tried my best, to not get them hurt, but,
Yeah.
it was nice. It was nice. And
hmm
I'm glad you said that. So before we go into the product, have you do you coach your children? Do you coach other children by any chance or something?
Yeah, I do. So my son's my oldest, he's 9. And then I have a daughter who's 7 who has special needs. So she's wheelchair bound. So she gives, I mean, she's way stronger than you and I will ever be, in my opinion. And it just gives a dose of perspective every single day to be grateful for the ability to do the things that we're able to do. And then I have a 4-year-old daughter as well. And ever since I think my son, when he was 4 years old, because I was working out in my garage gym, and and kids will nearly always emulate their parents. If you're sitting on a couch scrolling on your phone all day long, eating a bag of potato chips, well, guess what? That's what your sons and daughters are going to do. So, I mean, I know that's a heavy dose of reality to parents, but it's true. And sometimes the truth hurts. So, to that point, he's always kind of seen me working out, and naturally he wants to work out with dad. So, ever since he's been 4 years old, he's been doing push-ups, and I've had him hanging on a bar, having him aim to do pull-ups. And then I had a light kettlebell, so he would do kettlebell swings, and now he's 9 years old. And every year, so once he got his first pull-up, then we aimed to get his age. every year, so on his birthday. So when he turns 10, on his 10th birthday, I'll be like, all right, buddy, we got to make sure you can get 10 pull-ups. And he'll jump up in the bar and he'll rip 10 pull-ups to make sure that he still can. And he can, because now he's quite advanced physically for his age. And now I don't do it. I'm not militant. I'm not, a crazy dad about it, but I'm a physical educator though too. Like, so I'm also instilling in him, like, hey buddy, why don't you come get a workout with dad on Saturday morning rather than to just sit and watch cartoons or whatever. And of course, the natural human response to that is, and I'm like, so ever since he's been a young boy too, I'm trying to instill, and still to this day, an element of discipline, of doing something you don't necessarily want to do in order to get a result that you do want to have. And he knows he wants to be, confident. He knows he wants to be strong and capable. He plays a bunch of different sports. So I help him overcome that. So now it doesn't take as much of salesmanship to get him to do it. I usually just have to kind of give him a look like, he's like, okay. But I don't know about you, Jason, but for me, a lot of mornings, it's that exact same thing. I've been training since I've been 12, and so that's 27 years of training. And there's not a whole lot of days I wake up and go, yippee, I can't wait to swing my kettlebell. It's discipline. It's like, okay, let's get this out of the way. And then afterwards, I'm like, man, am I glad I did that. Every time, it's never failed me. I'm like, man, am I glad I did that. And on days, and it happens from time to time, where I succumb to an excuse, or quite frankly, there's just some days that are ultra busy and it's like, well, that's got to slide by today. And I never feel as good. I never feel as good. So that whole discipline thing is huge, that I want to instill in my kids, that, look, you got to be willing to do hard things to get what you want. And training is just an example, because there's a lot of other things in life that are going to be that way.
Wow, yeah, I'm in complete agreement, man. It's same here. To your point, the last week was one of my worst in like years regarding exercise. I had my back a little bit, strained
Sure.
up, and I had some a little bit shoulder. Of course, it comes with the territory. You exercise, that will come at some point. And I was like, oh man, come on, man. So I was grumpy, but I said, okay, so what do I have to work with? I have my right hand, it's healthy. I have my pec here, it's okay. My neck feels fine. So I'm like, okay. And I took the lightest kettlebell you can imagine. And I went there, I ate my humble pie like a good old boy, and I did for an hour long. I just had my light kettlebell and I did some stupid moves like just activate things. I
Yeah.
was like, yes. At the end, I was like, it's not easy. You don't need even to go hard every day. So
No.
yeah, be disciplined, but be smart also a little bit about it. But just be
Yeah.
there, be present, be
Yes.
there.
Yes. I'm with you, man.
All right, and I'm glad about the whole fatherly thing. Maybe we should do a part two just for the fatherly thing.
Yeah. All my podcasts, and that I'm always humbled when I get asked to be on one, but they always tend to go to that trail, the parenting trail.
Yeah, it's super important. It's
Yeah.
we live in an age where family is under fire, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
It is. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it isn't valued. It's like, oh, you don't need to have a family. It's like, oh, yeah, it's a burden.
Yeah.
It's a burden. So it's like, how is it a burden? I never got it, but
Yeah.
hey, what do we know here? I come from a large family, so all my grandfathers, grandmothers, uncles, aunts, mothers. I have brothers. It's like, why is it a burden?
Yeah.
And
I
now,
mean, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Like, it's difficult, especially, when you're in that parental role in life as a father. I mean, it's not easy, but it's also like we've all heard it. So it's cliche, but anything worth doing is hard, and parenting's and I couldn't imagine something more rewarding. It's tough, but it's, it's worth it. Don't let anyone tell you anything different, man.
Yeah, and you can always go and ask the 60-year-old bachelor guy how tough that is, how tough
Yeah,
that feels.
that's a great point.
No?
Yes, because I mean, culture will celebrate that. We'll celebrate that man who sold out to all of the family life and he pursued maybe businesses, made millions, and now he's on a yacht all by himself or with some ladies that he's, womanizing. And it's like, that isn't to be celebrated. I bet you that man is lonely as lonely can get.
Well, I even have inside information about that, but I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
So
All right.
let's move on.
All
Let's
right.
move
All
on
right.
to the idea. So okay, so you were a physical educator. You had obviously a great wrestling background, weightlifting background since your teens. So what was your training before you, a couple of years maybe before you started with your innovation? So what was your training more or less?
Kettlebells, almost exclusively. Every once in a while, I would bust out my barbells and my bumper plates and do some more traditional stuff, mainly to test to see if I lost any strength from a barbell standpoint. I mean, strength can be measured a lot of ways, right? But almost exclusively kettlebells, and largely because then leading up to the innovation. So the company is called Well Built Kettlebells, which would, leave people wondering, well, do you make kettlebells? We did. Originally, that's what we did. We were making American-made kettlebells, and it happened right before right at the onset of the pandemic, and there was that huge iron shortage in the States anyway, because they outsource all their manufacturing overseas. And then there was only a couple foundries, iron foundries, that were making kettlebells in the States, so they couldn't keep up. So anyway, I had a local foundry. We got to work together, built a relationship. We started selling some kettlebells, and I helped them design one, and then it was more of a handshake relationship, and it kind of went south when they started coming out with their own kettlebells and started competing with us. And it dissolved, and from that point we had to pivot, and that's where the kettlebell backpack was born. It was, out of adversity, right? You kind of go, well, shoot, that didn't go as planned. Now let's pivot here. And the thing about, trying to play in that kettlebell game is there's already some really large players, brands that do a really good job. And it's just kind of a race to the bottom. The margins aren't great. So I'm like, you know what? I got to brainstorm. I'm like, how can we find a way that could complement the kettlebell training? And I, like you, or like any other kettlebell enthusiast that will listen to this, is probably when they've gone on a weekend trip somewhere, or they wanted to go on a hike and they maybe had to drive to the park to get there, and they have a kettlebell rolling around in their trunk of their car, and you're like, gosh, I hope I don't get in an accident because this thing's gonna decapitate somebody. I mean, I had that thought so many times. I'm like throwing pillows and towels around them so they're not clanking together. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And that's where the backpack was born. And I just got to brainstorming and on an idea, talked to some people and came up with a prototype, and then just kind of keep fine tuning from there. And I mean, personally, I love it because it allows me so much more freedom to do what you love to do, Jason, and that's work out outside. I mean, I still, like, in the wintertime, I'll do most of my workouts in my garage. But when it's nice out, man, I love getting outside. And whether it's at a beach or whether we don't have mountains here, but we have these tall bluffs and overlooking the valley. And I love doing workouts in those locations and getting out in nature. There's something about, I mean, obviously there's a lot of health benefits to being outside more often, but when you start combining the two, I'm a big outdoorsman too. Not just in the sense that I like to be outside, but I love to fish. I'm a big bow hunter. So I spend a lot of time outside, and I just love being a part of nature that way. So it's a way for me to kind of combine my passions. So when I'm out scouting, whether it's for deer hunting or turkey hunting, I throw my backpack on and I throw, like a 35-pound kettlebell. And when I'm out scouting, I'm getting a workout in. It's like weighted hiking. I don't always take it out and snatch it, swing it, and do all those things, but it allows you to do some weighted hiking and weighted walking. The other day, we had a snowstorm. This was probably a couple weeks ago. I threw it on my back while I was snow blowing. People probably look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, I'm killing two birds with one stone right here. I'm being efficient.
True. Yeah. Hey man, you seem like an interesting guy, honestly. The whole going outside, exactly how you say it. I'm like you, I wanting to go out and explore things with my kettlebells, and I had my issues over the past couple of years. How many can I bring with my hands, And then
Yeah.
okay, I put them on the car, and I don't have a backup. How do you say, a truck? I don't have a truck. And when you put them on the car in the car, then turn left and right, and the thing is moves. It's not a light thing, and then it's good. It's like, okay, what's going to happen now? It's going to
Yeah.
open a hole in the car side,
Right.
and you're afraid. You're like, oh. So, dude, your innovation, I don't know why nobody thought about it before, but it's right on time. That's what I'm saying. It's right on time. So I'm glad you did it.
Thank you. Thank you.
How many kettlebells can you put in? Can you put more than one? How many kilos does it take? Can it take the backpack? Can you put more things in it, like towels, bands, other
Yeah.
things, whatever?
Yeah. Good questions. So it's designed for one kettlebell. I mean, it takes quite a bit of space just to put one kettlebell in a backpack and secure it. So unless you're a very large human, it'd be interesting to see how a double kettlebell backpack would work. But maybe down the road we'll innovate such a thing. It'll be double decker, there'll be one on top of the other or something like that. But right now it's just one. And kettlebell people know this, that most people, at least in my experiences, maybe not in yours, when you start kettlebell training, you start kettlebell training with one kettlebell. You usually don't go double. Kettlebell training is a whole nother animal, which I enjoy, but most people start with, swings, goblet squats, strict presses, Turkish get-ups, snatching, single arm swings, high pulls, all that single kettlebell stuff, which is phenomenal because I mean, I love the offset nature, the unilateral training, and I think that's great stuff. And I incorporate that into my training. It's probably the bulk of my training to this day. So I find that a lot of kettlebell people like have a weight that they can do just about everything with. And for a lot of men, a lot of the standard, if they prescribe a weight, it's like the 24 kilo, 20 to 24 kilos, usually where guys can get a lot done. It might not be the heaviest bell that they have or could use, but it provides a great workout for a lot of the exercises. So the backpack holds up to a 24 kilo, or excuse me, up to a 28 kilo. I have had heavier in there just to stress test it, but I just recommend on the safe side to be conservative, 28 kilo. And then for women, oftentimes it's a 12 to 16 kilo kettlebell that's super versatile for them, that they can do just about all those same things. So, is there a need for a double kettlebell one down the road? Maybe. But I think most kettlebell people are like, if I have one kettlebell, I know I can be dangerous with one kettlebell. Because when you're at home training, or if you do go to a gym, I don't want to hate on gym goers. Like if you're exercising, I'm a fan of you. You're gonna have your double kettlebell days. When you're using your kettlebell backpack, going out in nature and getting a great workout, is that going to be every day? If it is, awesome. But it's in my busy life, it's just not the case. And on those days, I'm single kettlebell training. You know. To answer your other question, you can fit a lot. I'll send you a link to the Instagram reel that I did of all the things that I fit inside of my backpack, like sweatshirt, speakers, sunglasses, sweat towel, chalk, got a water bottle holder. It actually has a hydration bladder system. It doesn't come with the bladder, but it's got a system. So if you have a bladder, hydration bladder system, and it holds that too. You could put your laptop in there. In other words, we have a vacation coming up. I'm going to try to get everything that I need for vacation in this, along with my 24 kilogram kettlebell. And that's all I'm going to bring. All the while fitting my fitness stuff in there, my jump rope, my bands, whatever. So you can fit a lot in it. It's got a ton of compartments. It can very well serve as a great backpack, even if you don't have a kettlebell in it. The insert and everything that comes with the kettlebell backpack is removable. So if you're like, well, they have kettlebells where I'm going and you don't need to bring a kettlebell, well, just, okay, slide that out, use it as a backpack for a little bit more space. It's a high quality backpack, even if you didn't use it for its kind of purpose of being a kettlebell backpack.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me, man. You don't need to either impress nor appreciate me. I'm sold already. So
yeah.
I'm just asking out of curiosity.
Yeah, no. There's just a lot, that's probably stems me going into detail just from the questions that I've had, from people before they buy, and can you fly with it? Yes, you can check them on. You can check them, and in some airlines you can even carry on kettlebell. You don't want to just call in advance with the airlines, because some allow it and some don't.
Yeah, that was my next question. That's amazing that you even went for it. So I have a flight. I'm moving on from Athens, and I'm moving on to a beautiful island here in Greece, Corfu.
Yeah.
Beautiful island, yeah. It's the Ionian Sea. It has some Latin, also some Latin influences, because it was under Venetian and Venetian Latino conquest for many hundreds of years. So it's a beautiful mix of cultures, the island. And anyways, I'm moving there, and I'm like, damn it, I can't find good kettlebells in the island. So I have found some, but they're both expensive and not exactly how I want them to be, right? And I'm like, damn it, I have my kettlebells here in Athens. How can I transfer them? So I'm wondering, could I use your backpack, man? Would that work? At least for once. I don't need to. My 20. I want to bring my 20. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who have, like, I would, call in advance and see if you can check it, or see if you can carry on, because most weight, at least in the States, the carry on is like 50 pounds max. And then if they make you check it, this is where airport handlers, they might be tossing that thing around. So that's where it gets a little dicey. That's one of the things we're working on, future improvements for airport handlers, just having like more of a hard handle for them to grab it, and they're not just horsing it around by the straps and wear and tear on the backpack. So I would just call in advance. I think that's probably the safest bet. I don't know if I would want them to check my kettlebell and have them tossing it around, because whatever else I might have in the backpack's going to get, I don't want that to get smashed.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say so. I'm not a big traveler, so I don't know, but if other people have some feedback, and you can actually make maybe a version 2 at some point in the future from the feedback you get.
You're right.
Yeah, because I've seen people asking that many times, which is not, in my opinion, yeah, it's unless you move. So unless you move like I do, I want to move directly and stay there. If you go for vacations and you want to bring them on, it's like, I don't know if it's worth the hassle. So if you want to go for a couple of weeks, maybe to Hawaii or wherever you guys go, I don't know where you go to chill out if you go. But it's worth, checking out. It's true what you said. It's reasonable, ask from a fan.
Right.
Another thing about kettlebells, so do you have like people reacting to your product already? So do you have any people saying, okay, that makes sense? Because I've seen influencers, that's why I'm asking. I've seen like some big names taking up your kettlebells and promoting it, which it's very encouraging, and I hope it continues that way, man. It's a great idea.
Yeah. We've had a lot of, like you said, some of those. We've sold about 200, so we're still small, but it's picking up speed a little bit, and We've had some cool discussions with some other kettlebell brands that are interested in selling our backpack. But from an influencer standpoint, we've had, DeRolk. If you know who DeRolk is, works in the tactical firefighting community, SEALs teams, BUDS training, and he's a kettlebell fan, and he loves it. So you'll probably be seeing some stuff from him in the future, very near future. Adam Gooch, yeah, he's a guy down in Florida. Got some great kettlebell stuff. If you're looking for kettlebell education and training, he does a great job. Got some in Canada. Sylvia Takata, she's a really strong woman. She's got one and she loves it. Jody, Kettlebell Kickboxing Canada, I think is her Instagram handle. She's also like a Spartan racer, so she's always bringing her kettlebell to places, her Spartan stuff. Bill Maeda, he's got a huge following. He's down in Hawaii, and he's just an interesting man. He's got a lot of different training concepts, but you'll see him use kettlebells pretty frequently. You can tell he's a huge fan of kettlebells, and I got him one, and he loves walking his dogs. He does it every morning with his kettlebell backpack, which is really neat. John Parker, John P. Parker, I think is his Instagram handle. He's out in California, also does a lot of weighted hiking with it. Sosi Seaman, I think is how you pronounce her name. Sosi. She's got a pretty big following. I think she's out in California. Really innovative kettlebell lady. Man, and there's even more than that. Eric does kettlebell. He's got kind of a entertaining channel. He's got some really cool content that he puts together. But he uses it for the same reason. So, but to your point, like, I'm one person, and when I get in the hands of another kettlebell enthusiast, I mean, that's really, from an influencer standpoint, that's really who I looked for, were people that live the kettlebell lifestyle. They're about it. They love training with kettlebells. So they would also understand some of the limitations with traveling with them, transporting them, getting lame hotel workouts because they don't have kettlebells and you're frustrated. So they kind of see the value right away, like, man. So that's edifying. It's edifying, like, hey, we got something here. Because starting any business, even if it's a great product, that's a very small part of the battle. Marketing it and the logistics, product design, and all the messing around with that, it's a lot. I mean, there's been numerous snags in this journey, obstacles, if you will, where it would have been easy to just go, I don't know if it's worth it. This is taking a ton of time. I don't pay myself or anything. Everything gets reinvested in. And then sometimes you got to invest more in. And it's like, I'm not Joe Rogan with millions of dollars here to just throw around, busy family guy. But, it just goes back to being disciplined and gritty and seeing things through because you believe in it. And when I heard those guys like you, Jason, and other influencers say, look, this thing's awesome, I'm like, I got to keep persevering. I got something here. So
let's support Brandon, guys. Everybody's listening, and gals, just support something that makes sense in this sometimes senseless
world.
So, man, where can people find your products? Where can people find you?
So people can find the products at wellbuiltkettlebells.com. And once you're there, you can't miss the kettlebell backpack. It's featured just about everywhere. You can find us on Instagram at wellbuiltkettlebells is our Instagram handle. Same thing on other social media. Pretty easy to remember.
Yeah. All right, Brandon. So thanks for coming on. I know that you're a super busy guy, of course, family man. I appreciate you guys actually going for it and being family man. And I hope more men do that. And I'm glad that you are an entrepreneur as you do, and you found time to share this beautiful message and this beautiful innovation that you do. So people subscribe to Brandon's channels if you are into kettlebells. It makes sense. And I see, by the way, your Insta is great. I love the reels and all that stuff. You do a great job, man.
Thank you.
And for anybody else, thanks for listening and giving us your attention. And remember that with the grace of God, you are the master of your fate and you are the captain of your soul. So ciao, ciao, everybody.